This is a story from back when I attended a community college. To provide context, I was a 19-year-old student back then, and a sophomore. The campus where I studied was quite ordinary in my view. I maintained a solid circle of peers, and throughout the duration of this event was unattached. Well, on Halloween night, I returned to my vehicle after one of my lectures and noticed that there was a note stuck to it. It was like a black scrap of paper in the form of a crow, and it was tucked inside like a postcard. When I saw it, it felt a total shock. I really didn't grasp who it was by. I thought perhaps one of my cousins had sent it and delivered it to a couple of us in the family line. Or perhaps one of the fellas that I was friendly with. Preferably one that I found was handsome. So I snatched up the page and scanned it. It read, "Find me at the gazebo near the garden pond after sunset." And that was all. It didn't mention who it was by or anything. It felt like maybe I had an anonymous fan. The spot that the scrap indicated was a famous place among residents at the university. Right behind the hall was the athletic zone. There was a track oval, soccer practice zones, and gym rooms. Beyond that was the botanical park, and then a thick grove that ran right beside it and past it. There was a trail winding through the brush that led to the garden pond. In the center of the trail was this pavilion. It was a gazebo in the trees that was rather isolated. And I was chatting with my sisters for the rest of the evening time, debating who it was who had placed this message for me. They all felt they had no clue. I was fairly shaky, because what if it was somebody who I didn't meet at all? When the class shift finished, I did what the note urged. I strolled by myself to the pavilion in the woods. There was nobody else there at all when I reached it, as none of the clubs that gathered outdoors were in session. When I arrived, no one else was visible, so I stood there and stayed. Very suddenly, I sensed the leaves rustle, and I spun around and noticed someone emerging from the brush. This felt weird. There was a man there who seemed about my age, but I didn't know him or identify him. I was baffled. He muttered hey, and I muttered hey back. He queried me if I saw his note, and I said yes, much obliged. That was very sweet. Then he claimed that I was his partner and that he had his sights on me for weeks. This was rather chilling me out, because I actually had no clue who he was. I was positive that I had never shared a lab with him before either. Then he queried me if I was prepared to leave, and I asked, "To where?" He claimed that it was a gift. I said, "Honestly, I need to be heading back right away." I didn't want to drive somewhere with him. I felt a foul aura from this encounter. Clearly, this was quite sinister, and the way that he just stepped out of the brush was really creepy. And I didn't get the vibe that this was just a guy who felt nice, but was clumsy or something like that. The man then claimed that I should not go. When he stated this, I just recall that his tone turned to rage. I told him, "Apologies, but I really need to exit." He began stepping toward to me. I spun and started jogging away. He then clutched my wrist and halted me. I asked him who he even was. He claimed that he shared campus with me and claimed that he watched me every day. I told him I don't recall I've ever shared a lab with you. He confessed we never did, but he claimed that he knew where my sedan was. And he watched me all the time in the corridors. I told him that I didn't even know his identity, and before I went anywhere with him, I would desire to know more about him. I'm not sure if he weighed better of actions in that second, but he seemed to cool down, and he let go of me. Then I walked away through the brush, but when I did, he paced after me and asked where I was heading. I told him that I was heading home, and he asked if we could meet up later, and I said no, I would not. I told him cheers for the note, but I was going to refuse. He said nothing, but then just loitered there. I felt quite bad, but also he was scaring me out. So at that point, I walked away and drove home. But that wasn't the end of it. That very same night, I was at home, and it was quite late, like 11 o'clock or something. I recall I was in my dormitory, when abruptly I heard a thud on the glass behind me. My room was on the ground level, and so it was at street height. I glanced back and saw the same guy right there. It was mental. I dashed over and pulled the drapes. Then I fled my room, and I alerted my brother and told him about the guy. My brother went outside at that point. When he got there, the man was sprinting away down the alley, and he got away. After that, Only like 30 minutes later, someone invited me on Instagram. It was the same guy, but I hadn't known his handle to that point. I messaged to him only to warn him to leave me alone, or I was calling the law, but he started yelling at me, calling me slurs and things like that. He was clearly livid that I had snubbed him, but arriving at my house at night was messed up. I muted him there, and my siblings said that they were going to alert him to the campus. That's exactly what occurred. And he ended up getting in trouble. In fact, I found it wasn't his first time doing something like this. I never saw him again after that either. I think he got banished, but I really had never seen him ever. The corridors at school would always get quite packed, but I hadn't noticed. That was the spookiest Halloween night I've ever had.